Welcome again to Wickerson Studios. I am continuing with uh, uh, Niloofar Zaker's GH Python course, and what I've done is exactly what I said I'd do. I've gone in and I have scripted most everything out of there, certainly dealing with the functions, and I've jumped into this section on points where she's made some terrific scripts that will get you thinking. This one is the one I wanted to look at, the surface, which I made into a function at underscore 007. And it's her script that she put in here. And as you can see, it runs pretty much just a few lines of a nested loop of I and j into x and y. And then she used some maths and some sine, and she had some other variables in here, v and n, to start amplifying and having some control. So what I did was I just took that and brought it over here. And you can kind of skip the second section because that really is just moving from normals. So it's a fairly simple additive, and it creates this kind of interesting form. And I like it. It's got really nice curvature as well. So if you didn't like the EMAP, you could always go in here to the surface curvature analysis, and you see what you get here as well, which is pretty incredible shape and form if you think about what's happening there as a closed single object. I certainly might take this to print, and I think that would be nice in bronze. Might be nice in zinc. Certainly could be nice in iron. And I think I will take that to a 3D printer and see what happens. But what I did in there, and I'll just walk you through the script as we go. It's not that one. Sorry, it's this one. You'll see that I went through the functions section to start. And then as I got into points, I wanted to activate those. And I still will activate this one down here, which was a tractor 008, and try and do something nice. Basically, what I'm doing is playing with this. And I'll just walk you through the script. So let's take this object, and we will probably just delete it because what's the point? And you can see that that script is running right here with it. It has a code at the top. I'm not sure why I put in code at the top. That's very interesting. I'm going to take that out. I don't even remember putting that parameter in there, but it should run the same either way. Let me just give it a second. It does take a little bit of time because there's an extension from normal. So you're getting this really nice object here, and we'll watch how it moves through each phase. So the script itself outputs these points A, which you have a lot of control over. You can push and pull it in the top and bottom direction, and it ends up building from those points a surface, a very interesting surface at that. And I'll just do a zoom extends all. It kind of shrinks down because it can be very large, and there's another object in here that's much larger. And I'll show you exactly what that is. So it makes a very interesting surface. So I'll leave that up to you to slide around and do these things. But I've got that balance with the sphere, and it's actually a quad sphere. And what I like about the quad sphere is you can separate, you can grab a surface, and you can also grab whatever indices you want. If you wanted to have fun with this and go in and make possibly double click and do this and just type in 0 and just get that in as a number, I could always go in here and possibly 0, 1, 2, 3, go yes, and then I'll just do a multi-line tool, and that will give me two numbers that if I brought into the index, it could be interesting to see what that does for this. It probably is going to screw up the loft, but I am tempted to see what is the outcome. And let's give it a second. No, you get this crazy form that's doesn't know what to do, and in the bottom it starts to really jazz up and do something very funky. So you can even play with this as well. And I've got this strange top view to this kind of nippled form. And you know, it's basically sculpting by using a little bit of data. And I'm just going to erase this because I'm not going to use that one. And you have that surface. Then from that surface, you are moving it through a project. Sorry, I just did a projection. So what I tried to do was this suborf, which is kind of cool. You need your base geometry. You're going to need your base, your geometry. Then you're going to need the base to that. The parameter I just set an MD slider at. I thought that would be interesting at 50-50 and see how that relates. And then the target will be that surface plane. And I should be able to just, I don't even need a base for that because that's the target plane. So I am interested in what happens. Let me just take this off for a second and hit disable. And then let me move this one and see what happens to that surface as I play with that MD slider and see what the sporf ends up doing. Could be interesting. I pulled it over in that direction. Is there any changes happening? It takes 2.3 seconds to read. You can see that there is this kind of moving. Now, of course, I haven't done any reparametizing, but it shouldn't really make an effect because it is kind of do-si-doing from one side to the other on there. It's having some effects, but let me just see what happens if I go in here and grab that base geometry, which is untrimmed surface, and I'm not allowed to reparameterize it. Can't reparameterize that. I think we're okay to just go in there and slide around and make some shifts in one direction or the other. It will kind of make it a little bit funky in one way or another. I'm going to take it to an extreme and see what happens. So I still am sculpting and playing with this as I go. It takes a couple seconds for it to read, just to get the sporf. And I don't mind it kind of offset like that. It's kind of awkward moving in one direction or the other. It might have an effect on the normals. I don't know how much that is actually changing. Let me try this one and just slide it over this way. See if I see any optical changes. There we go. Yeah, it does change it subtly. So I'll play around with that MD slider. Give it a few seconds to load, and then I'll reactivate this, enable. And what's happening then is it's grabbing all those points, which is nice, on that surface. And I've got a pretty high count on there. And I guess I could lower that so it would run a little quicker. And I've got my vectors showing where they're moving in all their little directions. I've got an amplitude of where they'll move to. So you get the initial points moving to these points, creating a surface from points there. So we have this initial surface from points. And we have the second surface from points. And then all I did was debrep with a simplification in a graph and lock between them and get this weird little wiggly edge, which I really think is a wonderful tool for making solids. Then grab all your sparts and throw it into, I grab my result, and I think it's the same result, no, 0 and 5. Yeah, it does bring them together into these breps, the brep join. So then when I'm done that, I can take that and I can grab that bake, bring them all together, join them, give it a second to read. And there we go. We've got another form that was kind of playing around with an MD slider, which made for something a little weirder and oblong or changed. I like it. It's certainly an object that I don't think I'd ever sculpt in Rhino, but I certainly would script in Python and then in the GH. And I thank Niloofar very much for these kind of scripts that she's been giving me, because they're motivating me. They're keeping me kind of thinking how exciting this is. I think that was it there. Niloofar Zaker, and then I kind of want to move them into kind of this intermediate basis of why you would use them. So this is kind of a, I don't know, very nice egg carton holder if you wanted to do it, but I also think it could be a very nice surface or bronze or sculpture in and of itself in kind of a modern fashion. Not too much conceptual work here outside of the program itself, but in the end you're left with this. I'm going to grab all of this through to here. Make sure I get it all in that select. I'm going to take the preview off because you see that big sphere that's on there. And that just takes a second to do-si-do off. And then I've got this object if I want it. I can take a look at it, select it. I can leave it off. I can actually get rid of it. And then we're right back into just exactly what we have. And at that point, I'm going to go back into the analysis tool, the surface. And I do like the curvature, but I haven't seen it in kind of a red zebra yet. And I think that might be kind of fun. So there we go. Oh my gosh, now you have something. That doesn't scream party. I don't know what doesn't. Anyway, fun little object. Very cool if you're into making geometries like this and playing off a form. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll just keep continuing. The next one we'll do will be this one, like I said, which will be a tractor at 008, and I'll try and jazz it up with something. So I hope Niloofar is enjoying what I'm doing and certainly inspired by their scripts. And I will just keep going. Thank you for the free lectures, and I will try and keep these lectures as free as I can on YouTube. And if you want to go deeper into the GH files, then I'll reserve those for kind of my Patreon, because they're complex and creative and unique, and I think anybody should really take a turn at trying to do that for themselves. Thanks very much for watching. I'll just shut down my snazzy little stuff.